Hello, everyone. This is Steph from the Canadian Schoolhouse, and we are here for a live stream. Now, we actually usually do these on Wednesdays, but we're adding a few more in, and today, especially because we are having on Jocelyn LoSole as our guest today, and she is going to share a bit about drama. She's doing some pretty cool things herself, and that she can share with you, and that she could be that guide for your kids, but then also she's going to share just a little bit what you could even do in your own home. And which I loved even more, having her as a guest, she's been homeschooled herself. So she's gone on to post-secondary education, but her education up until then has just been her parents guiding her. So she's going to talk a little bit about the homeschooling life that she had growing up. So thanks so much for joining us today, Jocelyn.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, wonderful. It's very exciting. I love this topic of drama. Not that I'm big into it myself. I've dabbled in a few things, like even in my adult years. And I guess I did drama class, and I didn't really necessarily think drama class was great in high school, but I guess I did had that way back then. But it's actually the stuff I've done as an adult and what I do now that I am trying to get. Maybe I'm a little bit selfish that I got you on here because I want some ideas myself on just trying to get drama into my boys' life a little bit more. And it may just be their thing, but otherwise it's still fun to have. It's still a great class to have as part of our education growing up. So
for sure.
So you are joining us from Belleville. And first, I want you to share about, because in Belleville, so anybody that might be around close to her can be able to go to her class, a live class, a weekly, right, Jocelyn? Yeah.
It's twice weekly, yes.
Awesome.
The youth program, yeah.
Great. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us about that acting class that you have on? Let us know where that is, and then you can share a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So the youth program for the Soul Theatre acting classes is a 10-week intensive acting program for homeschooled kids ages 8 to 13. It's sort of a specially curated program for kids who love to perform, who love to explore their love of performing. The training that I have had post-secondary in my sort of performing arts world, I have brought with me now to Belleville, and I've sort of tailored it, if you will, to incorporate a lot of the lessons that I learned into a kid-friendly program that kids will hopefully really adapt and learn from. So a lot of the lessons will include things like character development, makeup and costume design, script analysis, things that really they sound a bit daunting, but really, if you think about it, it's just breaking down how to play a character and how to bring that character on stage and make a truthful, engaging performance for the audience. It's twice weekly. It's only the classes are 2 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the mornings. So that's why I cater to homeschoolers, so we could schedule it during the day. It's at Theatre in the Wings in downtown Belleville, which is a wonderful theater space. It's just a little black box theater where there's lots of space to perform. There's lots of space to run around and have fun. And there's actually a really big bona fide stage in that space. So it's a really good experience for kids to have the opportunity to stand on stage and feel what that's like and have an audience there. I was very lucky to have procured the space for sure. The owners really believed in my vision for this program, so I was very lucky to have the space. At the end of the program, there's a small performance for the parents or the siblings, whoever wants to come. And really, it's just a really fun, exciting sort of multi-layered program where kids can, again, explore their love of performing, maybe make new friends. That's sort of the basics of the program.
So with that, I love too that. So you're doing all these classes, the 4 hours a week, I guess. That's awesome that it's so long too, that you do it twice a week.
Yeah.
And it's and then having that performance at the end, because having all that classes and training. So I imagine part of that 2 hours, they're actually doing some rehearsals for your end performance, probably more near the end, but then every class will also have the, a real training element to it, whatever you might be working on at that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Usually I schedule each week with a different theme in mind. So first week will be a bit more sort of introductory work, so that the kids aren't thrown in the deep end or anything. We're sort of working with who you are as an individual. Okay, so what can you bring to the work, and what sort of stuff do you like to do? And here's some costumes. Let's try some things on and just have some fun. And once that introductory week is over, we usually start with, from there we do beginner character development, and then we go into beginner exploration of comedy. We do improv games, just to sort of, even we bring arts and crafts into it as well, because I think especially if you do anything with your hands as a kid, it really sort of cements in your brain what you're learning. So we try as much as we can to do like mood boards. I don't know if you know what those are. You cut out pictures from a magazine and you put them on a little piece of paper, just to sort of explore who your character is. So it's like, oh, what does your character like? Yeah. Do they like teddy bears? Okay, so find a teddy bear picture and we're gonna, paste to this piece of paper, and so that each child is bringing their own idea of who their character is to the work, so we can refer back to it when we start doing rehearsals, like you said, near the end of the program. So yeah, it really is a lot of hands-on acting training. That sort of weekly is a little bit different each time, but in the end, the hope is that they have a pretty well-rounded idea of what performing is like, and if they even if they're passionate about it, I want to be able to give them the tools to think, okay, I know how to do this stuff, so I feel confident going into an audition room. Maybe if they as teenagers want to start auditioning for community theater, they have those tools already to confidently go into that room and go, hi, it's me, this, just stuff like that. Yeah, mostly sharing what I've learned from school. Yeah.
So tell a little bit now. I want you to share a little bit about about your homeschooling life overall, but and I want you to share for instance, you can go for those of you watching, you can see the Sole. Do you say it's Sole or just Soul?
It's so it's pronounced Soul. Basically, it's the last half of my last name there on the screen that you can see. Yeah. I suppose if you were speaking Italian, it would be Sole, but I don't say it that way, so it's just Soul Theater for now.
Soul Theater.
Yeah.
So you can go there and you can see more about the training that Jocelyn has had. But I want you to share a little bit about that training, and not to be daunting, because actually right after that, I want you to share, I know you have a few tips how people, if they're in Belleville or close to there, they're lucky enough to go to your acting class, but we got so many people that aren't that close, and really not even close. Myself, like I'm really rural here, and I don't like to drive too far for anywhere. So first though, share about just what your experience is, the what training you've had post-secondary. So after you graduated homeschooling, what did you do for training after that?
So post-secondary, I started college at age 18. I attended the Randolph College for the Performing Arts in Toronto, which is a musical theater specialty performing arts college for musical theater, where you'd be able to get a diploma at the end. So I spent 2 years there. It was actually a 3-year program squished into 2. So it was quite an intense experience. But again, it was a specialty college. So that's the experience that you got out of it. I spent 2 years in Toronto at that school, and graduated at the end of 2017, I believe. I graduated in December, and spent 6 months in Toronto working with an agent doing some commercial work, doing a bit of theater, singing work, just some small stuff here and there. Because really what I had my eye on was moving to Scotland, where the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland has a master's program for musical theater. So I had my eye on that program for a really long time. So once I was able to audition, they accepted me, and I was able to fly over probably about 6 months after I had graduated from my original college. So once I flew over, I spent a year in Scotland at RCS, completing my master's degree. And at the end of that year, I graduated, of course, and applied for a visa, 2-year visa to work in Scotland, because I thought being able to work internationally, I think it's really important, especially for people who have just graduated college. It's important to work overseas as much as you can, and, you know, gain as much experience from different cultures, different parts of the world. So I worked with a Scottish agent down in Scotland, and despite the circumstances in 2020 and 2021, I was able to procure jobs in film, short film, voiceover work, radio work, singing, modeling, etc. I was very, very lucky to have been given these opportunities. And actually during 2021, that is when I started building this program, not only for adults, but for homeschooled kids as well. Because I thought, you know, once my visa is over, I would like to come home to some sort of a creative job that I can move into, and just so that I'm staying active in terms of my own creativity as an individual, but also I had a passion for sharing what I had learned from my education with other people. So I thought, this is a good challenge for me. I feel like people would probably appreciate someone coming in and just teaching them even the basics of acting. So yeah, so I moved back here to Belleville. My parents moved here recently, actually. So this whole city is very new to me, but it's wonderful here. I love it in Belleville. It's awesome so far. And yeah, so that's the whole thing of it, is that I would love to be able to share my post-secondary education with other people as much as I can. Yeah.
That's great. And as I hear you talking, and I hope all you that are watching as well, that you can relate to that, not just experience that she has in the world of acting and drama, but also what you can do, you know, the freedom that you have as homeschooling your children, that they can really pursue interests. And also, because one of the most common things that come up, and I don't know if that came up because your mom actually, Christine, you know, I wanted to share that. So her mom, Janet LoSole, has also done a live stream with us. She's actually written a few articles on the Canadian Schoolhouse website. So maybe, Christine, if you can search for that. I don't think we prepped for that, but Steve, give a link to Janet LoSole's video, and she shares mainly about homeschooling and mom. But what the last thing she shared on was actually that those different paths, kind of, that each of her daughters took. So Jocelyn taking the one way where you actually didn't need, because that's an article that she wrote too, actually, getting the right. And she did the GED, right? Your sister did?
Yes, that was my sister. Yeah.
That article was about. Yeah. So she went that way of doing a GED and getting that certification kind of thing, being able to go on to, was it a university that she went to first, or did she go to a college first and then go to a university?
It was, I believe it was college first, and then it was university.
Your path was very different in the sense where you didn't really need a GED, because actually to get into, I'm sorry, I don't remember the first, I know it was a place in Toronto though, right?
Yeah, Randolph College, yeah.
Randolph College. Very, very different, even for people that would go to high school, the public high schools, they would probably go through that exact same process that you did as a homeschool. To, you know, you probably had an addition kind of thing, and there was a, you know, it was still getting accepted into that school, but just a really different approach. So I just wanted to like bring that little point out of just there's so many different ways, because that's got to be one of the top questions, not only we get as a company, like as a homeschooling company, but just as that I've got as a as a homeschooling mom, well, how do they go to college or university? Well, that's the same way
Right.
anybody else does. Um,
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, and it doesn't always have to be. Not everybody's going to go to college, university. Sometimes
Mm,
there's a process for that. But I wanted to get rid of that stigma that there's actually any more difficulty getting into what
mm,
kids want to do, but as adults, right?
yeah.
Picking your career, there's like no limitations when you're homeschooled. And your
No.
family is such a perfect example of that. Just like
Mm-hmm.
you and your sister both going different ways, and your
Yeah.
mom is great and just sharing all the different things that you've done and growing up,
Hmm.
right? Just how she homeschooled her
Yes.
kids is just a
Exactly.
great story
Hmm.
to see that.
Yeah, for sure.
So go on to okay. So you shared about your education. Then I wanted you to share. Oh, so a little bit, just a few little tips. What can you give
Hmm.
tips for homeschoolers, either to do it just with their family and give
Hmm.
those tips to me? I'm listening very intently, or to even create a homeschooling group, right? And just the
Hmm.
tips. Now we've got some stuff, and you can maybe add that on there, Christine. If your Schoolhouse Teachers member, we've got some stuff in there that you can use for drama. So you can check that out. And there's actually really a lot of curriculum. I know because I've checked lots of it out. We used a little bit all as well. So there's lots of curriculum out there you can get. But give us a few tips that we can do just with our kids or in
Hmm.
homeschooling groups, and what to focus on for what is that age? Your class is for 8 to 12 or 13.
Yeah, 8 to 13. Yeah.
And so what can we do at that age and below and above, I guess? Not that I'm sure
Mm,
you can give good tips for any age, but what can we
mm,
do as homeschooling parents to add that drama exposure into our
hmm.
life?
That's a very good question, actually. I think, in my opinion, I actually think it's a lot easier than parents may think it is. I mean, I'm not a parent myself, so I can't speak for all parents, but I know for me, I believe that kids naturally are very imaginative and very, very creative. And especially
Mhm.
homeschooled kids, I find that they have a very strong, I know it's strange to say, but I feel as though homeschooled kids have a very good work ethic, even when they are younger kids. So if you give them a
Mhm.
task, they will complete it. If they're passionate about it, they will complete it 100%. Um, so I would say a tip that I have is, rather than maybe, because I know when you play with your kids, oh, let's play dress up, let's play, et cetera, et cetera. Usually it's more of an
Mhm.
open concept where anything could happen, et cetera. But I actually, I find that if you give kids any sort of idea of, why don't we uh, either write a play, or let's create a little show for
Mm.
dad or for mom. So I feel
Yeah.
like if you give children the opportunity to create their own work, they will latch on to that 100%. So
Mhm.
if there's maybe
Yeah.
a suggestion that I would give, it would be, okay, let's create a play together. Let's write a small play together. And it's okay, so it's your job to think up the story. Okay, so think up maybe what you can bring to the story. Okay, and now it's your job
Mhm.
to think about what sort of costumes would they wear. So rather than just having playtime happen, I would maybe suggest spending maybe only a couple of weeks, maybe even just a couple days in those weeks, doing a small session on, okay, so let's brainstorm and think about, what is this story about? Who has ideas on what sort of story we can create? So
Mhm.
through those 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long, you're sort of helping the kids learn how to create their own work, which in their minds is actually, it's not hard at all, because all they're doing is they're doing their own brainstorming, and they're coming up with wacky characters that they could play. And
Mhm.
then, oh, I have an idea, I want to try this. Okay, so then you write it down, and when you start compiling all of these ideas together, maybe it's the first child's job to think about, how does the story go, so creating a storyline. So how would the character start, and what's the middle of the play, and then what's the end of it? So sort of building in any sort of I wouldn't say technical work, but any sort of work regarding writing or creating, or even brainstorming different aspects to their own characters. So maybe asking them, okay, so you're playing a detective. Okay, so maybe write down a few things about what your detective loves to do, what they don't like at all. So in the end, hopefully you would have some sort of a play that you could put on for the siblings who are maybe younger, or for the other parent. Just creating a play, I think you can add a lot of extra lessons in there that is actually a bit more advanced than just playing around and playing dress up. That's sort of what I was thinking of. Again, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak for parents, but even just taking time to talk to your kids about how would you think this would go? How do you think the story would go from here? So really getting their brains involved in the process of creating something artistic. It's not just, trying something on and having fun. It's maybe the idea behind those fun, creative moments. So just a little bit of that, I think, would probably add a lot more depth maybe to just dressing up and playing around. Other than that, I know that there's a lot of, actually adding on to that, I know online there's a lot of little plays that people have published over the years for kids. They're only like 10 pages long, even 15 pages long, but there's a whole bunch of them out there. You've probably seen them yourself. There's a whole bunch of them out there where you could say, okay, here's 5 plays that I found. Which one would you guys like to do for the next 2 weeks? So then maybe, you would sort of work on it and then leave them to it as well. Leave them to think up some things that may happen or some funny moments that they could add in. Just like I said, just to add a bit more depth to just, playing pretend. That's sort of the biggest one I can think of right now. It's a bit of an interesting concept, but even if they're old enough to write, I would suggest actually creating a journal for their character. So if you are doing the play at the end of 2 weeks, maybe give them a little book or a little journal and say, okay, so pretend that you are your character, and then take your pen and write in this journal and write down what you think the character would write down. What are their thoughts? Pretend that it's your character writing in this journal. So again, it's just a way for them to maybe improve their writing skills a little bit, just to and brainstorm a bit more about what sort of characters they can create and what happens in this character's life. And like I said before, if you wanted to do any sort of mood board exercises where they take magazines and they cut out, my character is a detective, so he likes to talk on the phone. He likes cheese sandwiches. So anything that they would like to add into their character, they could probably find in some sort of magazine, or even online. If you print something off, they could just cut it out, paste it to a piece of paper. So it's an arts and crafts exercise that again ties into building their character, or just general, using their imagination to think up different ideas for different kinds of people. It's under the umbrella of performing. You could really do anything, and the kids would really latch onto it, in my experience.
Yeah, when you talk about that character building too, we're doing a little bit about that. And I got to say, when you talked about all those things, I'm already putting both my boys into each of those roles. I'm like, oh yeah, Cruz would be really good for that. And I can see Dominic just like flourishing. He's definitely the storyteller, which is my 11-year-old. And this boy, I tell you, if one of them could go into acting and theater, and it would be my 11-year-old, because he just gets so expressive, just telling a story of something that happened, right? And he will just be all out and moving the whole body and everything. So I love hearing about these ideas, and I know other people got a lot from your tips too. But gosh, did I ever! And really about the character development part, though, like we're doing a bit of that more so with my 14-year-old, but in a course we're doing just language arts course, right? About creating a story, about creating a character, right? So there's lots in writing, and just how you can really connect so many different subjects, I guess, with that, but just skills with that. So whether it be writing.
Exactly. And there's another, if you wanted to maybe add in any sort of historical education to your art moments, art hours, performance hours, you could also sort of create a historical play where you would pick a person from history, anyone that you think is interesting or that the children would be interested in, and give them the role of researching who this person was in history. And at the end, sort of the idea of the performance, or even just a small presentation for the parents or whoever, they would sort of speak in first person. So their job would be to maybe dress up as that historical person and go, my name is Harriet Tubman, and I da 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 da. So you would then the child would then talk in first person as this historical person, this historical figure, so that they are researching and learning at the same time as performing and having fun. So it's any moment in history you could pick and choose, right? And so then they would learn at the same time as, oh, she would wear this, right? Or I want to wear this dress for this character. So they would have fun with it. They wouldn't think that it's work, right? You could trick the system a little bit.
Trying to get that, get them interested in that. And I would say for both my boys, getting them to write. So I'm clinging on to that journal idea. I've got journals for them, and we use that erratically, right? But sometimes it just seems like I'm like pressuring them like unnecessarily to just get 5 sentences out. It's like, what? 5 sentences? Like, okay, you can do it. Really, you can. And actually talk about that, doing it in it. And I just know they would, if they got to pick the character, because I've seen, and my older one, which if I wanted to pick one of them that might be a little bit more reluctant to writing things out, it would be my older one. But yet I've seen him just on his free time. He's writing these, and he has a character in his mind though, because he's writing as if he's already that other person. So that's awesome. I don't know why I didn't think, hey, I should do that. When I saw this writing, why I should have just said, oh, that would be great for having a journal. And a journal works well for so many areas, like of writing, but of also just getting those thoughts out and those ideas out, and creativity, right? It can be such a good tool. So
a good outlet. Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm looking for, we're going to take a break from, I think, our regular classes. We're moving in the middle of April. So that's really soon. So I can imagine life is already a little bit like out of routine.
Right.
So I don't know, we might dabble a few lessons in there, but I think I'm going to try to just get them to do a little bit more fun stuff. So I'm probably going to pick at least a couple of these ideas that you shared.
Awesome.
So share about now just a little bit about you as a homeschooler, especially like how important do you think? Obviously, acting, performing arts, right? I know you've done some modeling as well. Like just this profession. I mean, this is obviously your career, maybe for your whole life, but definitely for a while, right? Like it's something that you really cling to. So let us know how important it was for you to have that freedom as a homeschooling student, and kind of how that you shared a whole bunch of stuff just a little bit before we got on, as I was getting a feel for what life was like for you as a homeschooler. But share a little bit about that, like how important it was to have that free time of acting that got put into your homeschooling life.
For sure. There's a couple aspects to it that were extremely important, not only building me professionally, but building me as a person as well. For me, the fact that I was homeschooled just created so much more opportunity for me in the long run. Just being completely honest, the freedom that I had in my schedule as a child, the flexibility that I had, allowed me to be involved in community theater a lot, and the other extracurricular classes that I would do, acting, singing, dancing, etc., I was able to go to those classes and enjoy them. And because of that flexible schedule that I had, and not saying that my parents weren't there teaching me, of course, but if I had a singing class at 2 and then I had to go to choir practice at 7, things were able to be switched around, so that I was able to go to those classes. So really, the flexibility that I had built a bedrock of training that was essential for me successfully getting into the colleges that I wanted to get into. There was no pressure. I know I'm being biased. I never went to school, but I have a feeling that children who do go to school, they do feel a pressure to finish their schoolwork and to really make sure that they keep on top of their classes. So anything extracurricular is stressful rather than fun. But for me, I enjoyed being homeschooled, and of course I enjoyed being in the arts. So it went hand in hand with me in a joyful way moving forward in my training. Another aspect to my performing arts training that was it went hand in hand with me being homeschooled was socially, I was surrounded by adults all the time, because when we would go into community theater, there was a range of ages. It wasn't just all kids or all older people. It was a mix. So for me, I was able to soak in socially how everyone was sort of interacting, and how as actors they would interact with each other as well. I know I gained a lot of experience just from watching the adults who were in the bigger roles. I watched their work ethic. I watched how they approached any issues that they had within the script, or how they talked to the director, even professionally, how they acted with each other. That was a huge monumental thing for me, because especially if you're an actor, there's a lot of pressure when you go into any sort of show situation. Everything's very chaotic. So for me to be able to learn and watch from other people how they interacted in that space, my brain learned from such an early age that just, you have to be professional, and you have to learn that side of yourself that's, diplomatic, and, keeps their cool even in, stressful times.
Right.
So I touched on, of course, if you do have flexibility, it's great, because then your kid's able to go to the things that they want to go to. Another great thing about performing arts for a homeschooler is that you are able to learn so many different branches of education at the same time as performing. So performing arts normally has many different branches in it. So writing, directing, producing, performing itself, makeup and costume design. There's a lot of different areas of performing that build different skills in your brain that you can use further on in life. So let's say that, me as a 13-year-old, I went into a community theater production. I learned how to read a script. I learned what it meant to, what stage left was, what stage right was. So a lot of the writing skill that I have now came from community theater. Even singing, if your child is interested in singing, that goes hand in hand with music theory. It's all, you learn so much when you're in the performing arts. Academically, you'd be surprised how much you get from being an actor at a young age. I mean, you have such a fully developed toolkit usually at the end of even just a couple years of performing in community theater or small workshops. You really develop life skills in the performing arts. And I don't think many people realize that, but sometimes it's not just a hobby. It really is a great learning experience, especially for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, people can go on to kids can go on to making that their career like you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so instrumental in just development, maturity, and that to
Mm-hmm.
have subjects that and I think they're getting like more and more pushed out of the school, or at least at a younger
Mm.
age anyway, where you don't really have even like music or drama. I even
Yeah.
think about cursive writing, which I'm pretty sure that's out of schools completely. I actually have a great love for like both my boys are learning and know cursive writing, right? And even just
Mm-hmm.
something like that where it doesn't seem like, oh, the digital age, we can just tap away on our devices and
Yeah.
you don't really need
Mm-hmm.
that. But really, I mean, handwriting, I like it because you can handwrite faster.
Uh-huh.
But it's also a bit of a creative kind of thing. And I find
Mm.
for us to take that out of the our
Mm-hmm.
education, right? So as homeschoolers, as we're educating, it's
Mm-hmm.
those things like music and even learning different languages. I like that, not so that we can be completely fluent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's great to be fluent in more languages, but also just how that brain works. And there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of studies that I'm aware of that connect that, like learning languages, even music, like learning how to
Yeah.
play music and learning about just the even using our voice as an instrument, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot that goes into that for brain development. So just to have these classes that are
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, I guess they are elective. We can still use that
Mm.
term, I guess, elective, but not elective in the sense that like they're not really that useful, because they are,
Mm.
even if you don't want to go into that professionally. I think it's so important, for my kids to have fun and but learn skills about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you said not just play dress up, right? But
Mm-hmm.
actually put a little bit more depth to
Yeah.
having that fun. And it doesn't take, especially even how you describe that, it doesn't really take that much to add in that little bit more depth to something
Mm-hmm.
that kids just naturally do on their own. So that's just
Exactly.
a lovely thing when we can see
Exactly.
that in our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
So that pretty much ends with all our questions we kind of wanted to get you to answer with us today.
Mm-hmm.
I want to let you know that so wherever you're watching this video, you can go and check out. I was almost going to call you Janet, Jocelyn. You can go and check out Jocelyn's
I do look like my
website.
mom, so
Yeah,
it's all
that's
good.
the name of the video.
Yes.
Um, and on her Facebook page, and you can learn
Mm.
more about that. So when does it start? I'm sure you said that at the beginning, but when does your class, your spring session for your acting class start?
It starts on April 19th. That's the first day. And like I said, it is a 10-week program. So it ends on June 23rd. And actually, June 23rd is, of course, since it's the last day, it's actually the show day. So up until then, we would be rehearsing and acting and doing exercises. And yeah, the last day is the performance day.
Oh,
Yeah, and of any details that you need to know about, they're all on the website. I built the website myself, so a lot of everything I talked about here, even curriculum content, if you wanted to know more about what's being
mhm.
provided in the classes, it's all on the website. I tried as much as I could to give as much information as I could. But then, of course, if anyone has any questions as well, they can just email me at, there's a contact button on the website with an email. You can just email me anytime. I'd love to answer questions. It's no problem.
Perfect. Oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
thanks so much, Jocelyn. I wish you were just
Yes.
like a smidge closer. Well, and of course I'm moving too, so that wouldn't work. Maybe if I was moving right down, well, that'd be perfect.
Right. I know.
But your acting classes,
Yeah,
your acting
it
classes
sounds
sound
like
great.
your kids are already sort of involved in the performing arts. So in my head, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that would have been perfect,
Oh.
Next
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well,
time.
thanks so much for sharing. You shared so much, not just about
Mm,
drama, adding drama to our class, but just about that greatness of being homeschoolers. So
yeah,
I
for
hope you all
sure.
enjoyed our chat today, and thanks so much for watching. Bye.